first of all, thank you so much for coming on to my crazy YouTube channel. I know this is a little intimidating, especially if you've never, done an interview about this before. So thank you a million times. My subscribers are dying to meet you. So a million times thank you.
Million times you're welcome.
So let's start with why you decided to be a foster mom and what that journey was like for you and your husband, because for so many people it's very difficult to say yes. This is an emotional thing. You guys love children, and it's not always easy, especially dealing with foster care and the system itself, the court systems. It's sometimes chaos and very heartbreaking. What was it that you decided this was for me and my family and that you wanted to do that?
I didn't get the ball rolling at first. We had 3 biological children in 3 years. We were insane. And one day, I guess my youngest would have been around 1, my husband, Don, said, I really wish we had gone for number 4. And I looked at him and I said, you're crazy. Working 3 part-time jobs because none of them were in school yet. I would have been paying for them to go to daycare. So I was working all these odd jobs. And I remember I was standing in my dream house and I said, okay, God, if you want us to add more kids. And at this point we knew God put adoption on my heart when I was a kid. So we were fine with adopting. And when I was standing there and I said, okay, God, if you want me to do this, you're going to have to give me 1 job. And 2 days later, the dean of the university that I work for now called me and said, hey, you might want to look into this job that's coming up. And I got it. So it was 2 days. And the Lord prepared my heart. So we got into it, and there's lots of stories along the way of how the Lord brought each child into our home. We always prayed for peace. And I would say that in the beginning, we were in it to adopt. And so for folks out there that might be considering foster care, adoption, whatever, that was maybe our first mistake. You get into it because it's the passion of your heart. And then what happens is what happens after that.
I'm glad you said that, because I would love to foster, but my heart would be for adoption, and I know I can't foster. So I have to spread awareness any way that I can on it, but you love them, so let's talk about that before we talk about meeting me and meeting Micah. So to those out there that are like, I can't foster because I will love them so much, what is your response to that?
People just say that they couldn't give the child back. And my first response is, I want to say, well, you think I want to, that I don't, it hurts my feelings because you think I don't have love for this child. That's not the right heart. And so I eventually just looked at them and started saying, then you'd make the perfect foster parent, because that's the kind of love they need. Every child needs someone who would be broken if they were to be taken away. And that response always gets up, Yeah. But that's the sort of love that they need. That's the sort of person that, and it's hard. I mean, if I were to sit here and say that this was something easy, I would be lying. But that's the reality. If you have that much love, then you're the perfect person for the job.
I think we just get so caught up in our own feelings, our own selfishness, and we forget, like, foster care is a selfless thing. You are sacrificing a lot, and in a very good way, but it's also, it pulls at you, there's so much love that these babies need and these kids need. And yeah, I love that response. A lot of my friends do foster care, and I would do anything to do foster care, but we need good foster moms and dads that love these babies that are upset. So
about you, that's the bottom.
Yes.
And their needs. If you need this to make you whole, it's not the right season in your life. You may be being prepared to do this in the future, but it's not the time.
Exactly. It's all about the kids and what's best for them. So with that, you got a phone call in 2012 for a 2-day-old baby named Micah. What was your first response to hearing that there was a need for a tiny little 2-day-old baby?
That was probably my third call in 2 days. And I had said, no, no. And something gave me pause. I believe it was the Holy Spirit, but something gave me pause. And I said, let me call my husband. And I called him and he said, yeah. And we just both had this piece that we always looked for. I say looked because we don't foster anymore right now at this moment. We're maxed out. But anyhow, that's the piece that we looked for. And I was excited and nervous and, all that goes with that. But yes.
So did you pick her up from the hospital, from foster care, from a worker? How did that happen?
I went to the hospital.
So that experience for me was the most traumatic of my life. I talk a lot about the trauma that surrounded that, but I was physically removed from that room and I just left her there in that little bassinet, not knowing who would come in, who would take care of her. I didn't know where she would go, and I couldn't speak for a couple of weeks after because of the trauma. And I have little flashes and little moments of correctional officers talking to me, a nurse talking to me, but I don't remember it fully, which is just how the brain compartmentalizes trauma, which took me a long time to figure out like what was wrong with me. Why am I not remembering all of that? So you took her home and you didn't get to meet me until Micah was about 6 months old.
Yeah.
Right. So what was your first, I guess, opinion on me, the situation, and then meeting me? How did that happen? What was your guys' feelings on all of that? Because this is not a normal thing, this is a very different situation.
But we were told that you would be in prison and that your release would not happen. And I believe that was part of like I said, at that time, our goal was adoption, and she was the most beautiful baby. Can I just say that? She looked like this little China doll that I was terrified. All of my babies were big babies, 8, almost 9 pounds. And then there's, what was she,
6'11" or 6'12"?
Yes. She was so tiny, and I would wake up in the night and just make sure, reach over, her crib was right there by my bedside and make sure she was alive, because I was so scared until she got bigger. But yes, 6 months, met you at court, and you were all dressed up in your orange jumpsuit, I guess you could say. You looked like a child to me, because you had no makeup on, and there was this just spirit of, I don't know, apprehension or despair around you. And we talked. And that day I came home, and at this point we'd had other foster children and dealt with other parents in meeting them. And I went home to Don and I said, Don, my husband, he's a police officer. He did not go to court the first time. And I looked him in the eye and I said, this one's different. There's something about her and she's different. And his response to me was, she's a drug addict, Heather, and he deals with drug addicts a lot. And the prognosis is not good. That's the reality of the situation. So I left it at that. And I guess court was about every 6 months, if I remember correct. The next time we came, and I mean, again, this child, we love her as we should, as any foster family should. We adore her, and he feels like he's her daddy. He's not one for many words anyhow, but I don't think there were many, if any, words. And very he stood, arms crossed, very protective, because that's his heart. He is a protector. But I'll tell you, I don't think I've ever told you this one on the ride home. He said, you're right. we saw something in you beyond the norm, shall I say. For anyone watching whose children are actually in foster care, it really the world to us that you thanked us, that you appreciated us. I don't know why I'm getting emotional. It's near and dear to my heart. I can say other words, from the foster parents' perspective, and there are many wheels at work in this whole process. There are a lot of moving parts.
I was in prison. My heart was not with me. And for the first time in my life, I loved someone besides myself. If getting clean meant I had to love myself, it wouldn't have happened. I didn't love myself. I didn't care to fight for me, but Micah gave me a purpose and a reason to fight every day. She still does. That child keeps me grounded, and she's a little miracle. I'm gonna cry now. God. Ugh. Get through the interview. I met you, and I was unbelievably grateful that an amazing family was there when I couldn't be. And I knew Don was a police officer. He was not in uniform. I just knew he was a police officer because I'm a criminal. I see police officers every day, correctional officers every day. I knew by his haircut, his stance, his attitude, I knew he was a police officer. And I'm like, well, this is awkward. I know that and we know that you're a cop, right? But I was so grateful because I could see that you were good. I could see that you loved her. And that feeling was so overwhelming that I could not tell you how grateful I was. But I remember telling you, I said, I will fight until my last breath to be her mom. I will get her back. I just want you to know, I will fight forever for her, and I was in chains and orange, and I got to hold her for 15 minutes, but it was very brief, but it reaffirmed for me what I was doing, and you can get very caught up in the prison mentality and the prison life. I'm not surrounded by good people. I'm surrounded by like-minded people, and I was very much in a negative headspace after I gave birth. And I was surrounded by a lot of negativity, and it's so easy to get caught up in that mentality. So seeing her with her two little pigtails and her little cute little outfit and her dress, holding her, it's what I needed. I needed that. I needed to see her. I needed to see the reason why I was fighting. And it was very emotional. I remember calling you once I got out at the halfway house crying because we didn't know which way it would go. We didn't know if you guys were gonna adopt and then if I'd have to move to where you live just to see her, but I was willing to do anything. Can you talk a little bit about what my journey looked like from your perspective?
First of all, can I say I'm so amazed at what you've accomplished. I never dreamed that you would be so successful.
I never dreamed. What do you mean? I never saw this. Not this big.
Success, absolutely, but you've done so well for yourself. Okay, so the question was my perspective of your journey. I have never seen, nor had any of my other friends that fostered seen even DHS place. You had to drive, 4 hours each way just for a 2-hour visit, I think, in the beginning. So this entire day for you, your gas, your car. I mean, I see DHS driving people everywhere all the time. Anyhow, that may have been necessary for the both of us, for you to fight. You had to fight to get your daughter back. And for us to see she's committed, she's in this. This is the real deal. She's totally 100% in. And that gave me peace, maybe more than anything. And then just, it also enabled us to get to visit and get to know you. And that helped.
I feel like my journey, because I've met a lot of women that was in a similar situation. I feel like my journey to get custody was long and painful and stressful, and just the driving was a lot, and it was at least a year that I had to fight and go through, jump through all the hoops. I remember having to take drug tests, but they would cut my hair and do the hair follicle drug testing. And I would be sitting there at this clinic every 90 days or whatever they decided, and I'd be crying, and these nurses were so kind to me, but they're like, it's just a little bit of hair. But it's like, no, you're cutting my hair out. You know, like, I have to drive 4 hours. I'm overdrafting my gas. I have no money. I can't afford it. I'm struggling. I am beyond stressed. I'm not sleeping very well because I don't know if I'm going to be able to have my baby. She's a toddler now. I don't know how to make spaghetti barely. Now you're cutting my hair. It was such an overload of emotions at all times. And that journey, while difficult, it needed to be that hard for me because of how stubborn I was. And, you know, there would be nights where I didn't sleep at all because I was studying how my addiction affects me long term. And I was like, I need to be okay for her. And I need to make sure that my brain is not broken and I can do all of these things, even though I'm an addict and I have PTSD and depression. I need to know that I'm good enough. And there was a moment where I wanted to give up because you and Don, you're an amazing family. You have so much love, and I thought, she's in a good place. Am I doing the wrong thing by fighting to get her back? Because she's in a great home, a home full of love and other children, and you probably know how to make more than spaghetti. So I was doubting myself, and I didn't know if I could do it. You know, I didn't know if I deserved her or if I was good enough to do that.
Prove to yourself that you were.
You know, I TikTok now, this is random, this is taking a turn, but I saw somebody shaming a mother because she was fighting to get her daughter back, and it had been a few years. So I just kind of want to talk about that a little bit because I think it's important. The goal of foster care is reunification when at all possible. So can you talk a little bit about the process in which, you know, reunification can happen, when it shouldn't happen, when adoption happens, you know, all of that, so I can stop crying.
If there are prospective foster parents out there, you will never fulfill the role as birth mother. I don't mean to sound harsh. There is, and I think that speaks when you spoke about the 2 weeks after giving birth to Micah and the heartache that you felt. There's an intricate bond between a birth mother and her child. And there are abandonment issues with those children. So to neglect to understand or even try to understand that, you will not fulfill that bond. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't make beautiful bonds with a child that you adopt. Doesn't mean that you can't fulfill other roles. But I think it's worthy of noting that that's just not one that an adoptive or a foster mother can fill. That being said, there are times when a mother should not have custody of her child. And if that child is at risk in any way, shape, or form, the reunification should not happen. I've known children, drug addiction, at least here in Arkansas where we live, is the number one reason children are removed from homes. Right now we have 3 biological children, 3 children we've adopted, and I'm also raising a friend's child right now. And her mom is actually doing very well. She's been clean for months now, has hired an attorney, and we go to court in February. And I don't foresee the judge having any reason because, it's been 3 years. That's painful. But we have a good relationship again. And that's another thing that I, encourage. If there's any way that a foster mom can have any kind of relationship with the biological mom, that's not a bad thing, because I feel like we'll get to see this little girl frequently, and I feel grateful for that. There's a part of her, and she's torn, the little girl that lives with us right now, she's torn. She loves us so much, but there's that definite bond there between her and her birth mother, and she wants to be with her too. So you can't get into this without understanding that bond that they have.
First of all, I'm so glad she's doing better. That's amazing. I'm so happy. But I think that it is very important that she sees you guys on a regular basis, whether it's weekends or whatever, because in early childhood development, it's important that you don't lose these bonds and that you have the support of community and family. And, you know, I'm sure she loves, you know, your babies as well. And to lose that would be very difficult for her. So it's important that y'all see each other. And I wish that you could see Micah every weekend. Just move. It's fine. Just come up here.
Anytime you like. You can work from anywhere.
Touche. Touche. But, you know, that was important to us when I had Micah and I, you know, got custody back. It was important. We saw you guys on holidays when we could. It is far. We were 4 hours from you. Now we're in Chicago and it's far. But Micah knows. I'm very honest with her about my struggle in age appropriate ways, you know, so she knows that our story is so special. She knows that she was born when I was in jail. She's almost 9. She's 8.5. And she is mature enough to understand that I made mistakes and that there were consequences for that. So just for the way that I parent, I think it's very important to talk about mental health if you can in an age appropriate way. I mean, every child is different, you know, but sometimes my brain is just sad and my brain just goes, we're gonna be sad today. So we're making cupcakes, you know? So, and I articulate that with them in the ways that I can, but not disrupting those bonds that your babies have made is important along the way, especially if you're a parent in recovery and you've gone through similar things, you know?
I heard a good quote. I was talking with a little girl who'd been adopted. She's a teenager out of foster care. And she said, my mom, you know, it gets confusing with all the moms and all the dads and all that. She said, my mom, meaning her adoptive mom, she said, my mom said, I have to love my mom where she is. And that really resonated with me. And so I think good foster parents, I would never say anything negative about the mom of the little girl that I'm raising right now. And we always just said she's sick because this child's young. She's sick because she has been, you know, and she's getting better. And that's what we've told her. She's getting better. But I loved that. Love the parent where they are. You know, you can still have love for them. That doesn't necessarily mean they'll be raising their own child, but love them where they are. So.
Right. You know, I say sick as well to Micah. I was sick and I got better because they don't understand what addiction means at this stage, in my personal opinion. So I say sick too. I was sick and I got better. I made mistakes and there's consequences for your actions, you know, which it's funny now. Riley and Micah think it's funny to write me tickets and send me to jail. So maybe I've been too honest, but they just think it's hilarious. They'll write little tickets, $100 fine, or go to jail. So you go to jail. Why? Because you're on your phone. If you're on your phone too much, you go to jail. So it's just so cute to see how they, you know, take what I say and interpret that in their own little world, and they're amazing. So before I let you go, if you could say anything to parents that want to be foster parents, what advice would you give them starting this journey?
Keep your expectations low and don't be fixated on adoption. Look for peace and allow everything to work out as it's supposed to work out. You can work yourself into a frenzy worrying about these children. And, you know, as a believer, God loves them more than I do, more than you do, more than their parents do. He's got their best interests, and we are not in control of the situation. So if you go into it expecting to have a degree of control, you're not going to be satisfied. Love the mamas and daddies where they are. It's very important to both spouses be on the same page. There's a season in your life, but if it's something that you're thinking about, it really may be that your heart's being prepared for something that's, I believe, very noble. We were broken when Micah left. I don't know that either of us have cried that hard. We knew she was going to a good place. And that, I think that might be the worst fate of all, is the children that leave your home and you never hear from them again. You never know what happened, if Auntie so-and-so took care of them or mom fell off the wagon again. It's hard. And I'm so thankful that we still have contact with you guys. And I can see that Micah is thriving and doing well, and that you are thriving and you are doing well. That's such a blessing to me, but that's not always the case. So again, if someone has to have a great deal of control, this may not be the avenue for you. Support it in other ways. You know, our county has like a clothes closet at one of the churches, and everybody brings clothes, and you can go and shop for your foster kids there and get things that they need. And people donate diapers and formula and all kinds of great things. There are so many other ways that you can help through foster care if you can't foster yourself, or it's not the right time, or your spouse is not on board, because all of those things need to line up before you're prepared to do this. But I mean, we mourned almost like a death. There was a hole, a huge hole, and my whole family mourned. We were happy for you. We were thrilled that you had gotten your life together. We were thrilled, but it is very painful. But I'd do it again. In a heartbeat, I would do it again, because it taught us so much. I think having Micah really opened our eyes to loving the parents, and I would say we were not always there. I think that fostering makes you a better person, and I think it's made my children better children. It's not about them all the time. They have to share that space. They have to share the toys. They have to share there are so many good things.
How did you guys get over me getting custody of Micah?
I will say that we were done. We swore off fostering. We stayed open as foster parents because we thought, well, if something were to happen and Micah came back into foster care, which now that I look back, that's preposterous. That wasn't going to happen. We knew that. And a few months later, we got a call about 2 brothers, and there was no one. And we were done. She said, I know you're done, but I just had to call. There's no one. There's no one. That's what I hear. There's no one. And so we said, well, we will take them for now. And they're now my sons. So beautiful things can happen when you least expect it. I wouldn't change anything. Pain is not a bad, I mean, people think that, oh, it makes you a better person. It really makes you a better person. And it's not about us.
I knew that you were hurting. I knew that this was very painful for you. And I doubted myself for at least the first 6 months that she was in my home. I wasn't a very motherly person before this experience, you know, and my background is violent and chaotic and drug filled. And I remember the first day I brought her home, I got full custody. The drive home, she didn't understand. She's just eating her goldfish. And I'm just like, we did it. And she's like, we did what? Can we get ice cream? Like, she doesn't get it, right? I'm like, we did it. You know, and I'm just crying and smiling, and I'm looking at her and I just can't believe it. And for a long time, I took a lot of other people's advice on how to be her mom because I didn't know. And other people must know. I called you, and you never failed me with advice for Micah. Never, not one time. I would want to buy her things because I felt guilty, and you're like, Jessica, stop that right now. You're not making up for lost time. You have her today. Move forward. I would have just spoiled her and showered her with love. Not that I shouldn't shower her with love, but in the form of presents and money, because I didn't know any other way. You know, I had to get her to be independent, but also know that I'm stable. And it was a journey. You know, I wanted her just to sleep in my bed because that's how she felt comfortable. But then I realized she has to be independent. She has to feel safe in my home. And it was a very long process to where we are today. And, you know, if you are watching this, and you're doubting yourself as a parent, you're doubting yourself, and your child is in foster care or with family, you are what's best for your child as long as you're healthy and as long as you love. And if you are doubting yourself, that probably means that you care so much that you're gonna give that child everything she needs or he needs. But in my doubt, I didn't see my ability to be a mother, you know, and I was inherently negative and just hard on myself. You know, if I yelled, I thought it was the end of the world at the end of the day. Oh, I yelled at her. I shouldn't yell at her. You know, I haven't been there for 2 years. Don't yell at her. Like, okay, but she was an amazing little girl. She still is amazing, but she was a very easy toddler, very good little girl, always just laughing and having a good time, and that helped my journey as well. But you guys did amazing with her, and you gave me my life. I mean, I wouldn't be here if I didn't have Micah, because if I had lost, no one on the internet would know my name. I wouldn't do everything I do. I wouldn't be here. I knew that I couldn't handle that. You know, all of that word vomit to say, fostering is not about you. If you're doubting yourself as a mother, if you're thinking that you can't do it, then that probably means you care enough, you care a lot, and that means you might be a good parent after all. I wish I told myself that. I wish I recognized that. I don't even know how to end this now because I just need to cry. So emotional. When she grows up and she actually understands how special she is.
God has big plans for this child. She's very special. Very special.
Just in our day-to-day, the way that she is with Riley, I mean, my gosh, she'll make her breakfast because she wants to. She'll help her find clothes because she wants to. Not because I'm like, help your sister, which I have done before, not gonna lie. But she loves to do those things. She loves to help Riley with things like her toothbrush or a toaster waffle. And it's just so beautiful to see all the love that she has. Mike is an empath, you know, so she really will pick up on energy and, you know, help whenever possible and just jump in there and help Riley. And it's just, she's such a good kid. Like, I don't even deserve that child.
How she's wired. It's just, think of what she'll do for humanity.
I know. Okay, well, thank you so much for all of this. I know my subscribers are gonna want you to come back on the channel if you're up for it. It's so scary and intimidating, I know. My first video was a train wreck and I just thought I'd make 7 videos. And if they found them on the internet whenever, then cool. That's really what I thought YouTube was. And now it's all of this. I had very low expectations, but they're so supportive and they're so excited to meet you. So again, thank you for coming onto my crazy YouTube channel.
Well, it was my pleasure. It was really my pleasure.